Good morning. Welcome to your breakfast news this morning, live from AYOGEN online television. I am Makanjola Oluwatosin Esther. Here are the major headlines. On our local news this morning, Army, not politic. On our general on our political news this morning, Akere Dolu playing politics. Anambra gubernatorial election candidate signed peace accord as Abubakar preaches peace ahead of poll. On our business news this morning, abandoned oil depot pipelines, rigs constitute security threat, says reps. On our sport news this morning, English Premier League, they are underperforming. You can't give Circus J another transfer window. Aman tells Man United board. On our health news this morning, NDLEA wants compulsory drug tests for intending couple. On our foreign news this morning, Navy fires top 3 leaders of submarine that struck uncharted sea mountain. And lastly, on entertainment news this morning, Jay-Z deletes Instagram account a day after joining the app. So full details coming up next. EFCC finally releases Obi Kubana 3 days after 3 days in detention. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has finally released billionaire businessman Obinna Iyehegbu, popularly known as Obi Kubana. Recalls that the Anambra Bond Club owner was arrested and taken to the headquarters of the anti-graft agency, Jabi Abuja, on Monday, following allegations of money laundering and tax fraud. The popular socialite was, however, released on Thursday evening after he had spent 3 days in detention undergoing interrogations. According to the spokesman of the commission, Wilson Uwujaren, who confirmed the release to reporters on Thursday night, Kubana was allowed to go after the crack detectives of the commission completed their questioning. Regarding the Anambra election, Nigerian Army, not political, says General Nwachukwu. Ahead of Saturday's election, the Nigerian Army, NA, has declared the military unit remains unpolitical. Director of Public Relations, Brigadier General Onyema Nwakachukwu, made the detention on a statement on Thursday night. The spokesman accused conflict merchants of plotting to discredit Army's constitutional role of aiding civil authority to provide internal security when called upon to do so. Nwachukwu accused mischief makers of sharing a video on social media, alleging that soldiers were escorting buses filled with fake voters into Anambra State. The director said, contrary to the misleading claims, the buses in question were conveying INEC permanent and ad hoc staff for the election. The Federal Ministry of Information and Culture has corroborated this position. We urge the general public to please disregard the report, and it's clearly a misinformation. Our duty in the state at this time is purely security related, and in support of the Nigerian police, which is the lead security agency in the security architecture of electioneering, he noted. Nwachukwu stressed that troops are guided by extant provisions of Armed Forces of Nigeria, FAN, Personal Code of Conduct during elections, as well as the provisions of Armed Forces, Act CAPA 20 LFN 2004. The Army vowed to continue to operate along those lines to ensure that peace and security reign in the country. We will remain apolitical and very professional in deeds and conduct for the growth and development of democracy in Nigeria, the statement added. Borno GM jailed 28 years for 86 million naira contract fraud. A Borno State High Court sitting in Maiduguri has sentenced a civil servant, Maji Afo, to 28 years imprisonment for engaging in 86.1 million naira contract fraud. Afo, who was sentenced to jail by Justice Arino Sheila of Borno State High Court 3, was the general manager of the state-owned Maiduguri Flour Mills Limited when he committed the fraud. He was charged on the 6 counts by the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission for offences or due advantage on himself. The charge sheet showed that Afo, while acting as the general manager of the flour mill between 2014 and 2020, engaged in multiple fraud and practices and other related offences Act 2000, punishable other relevant sections of the same act. On one of these counts of which he was convicted, revealed that he awarded multiple contracts to Falquat Multilinks Limited, a private company where he was a director, to counsel to supply diesel and maize to Maiduguri flour mills. Counsel to ICPC Anas Mohammed Kolo told the court that the convict in October 2015 awarded a 4.9 million naira contract to Falquat Multilinks Limited to supply 40,000 liters of diesel to the flour mills. The court further urged Al-Afo, while being a public servant, awarded several contracts between 2016 and 2017 to his private company to supply maize to Maiduguri Flour Mills Limited. For instance, he authorized the payment of 42.1 million naira to his company in July 2016 for the supply of 386.45 metric tons of maize, and on another 23 million naira to the same company in March 9, 2016 to supply 306.94 metric tons of maize to the flour mills. Azuko Ugugwa, titled 86.1 million naira fraud, civil servant charged by ICPC backs 28 years imprisonment, said he was convicted for yet another offense when he approved the payment of 16 million naira to Falquat Multilinks to supply 217.45 metric tons of maize. The statement read, Justice Michel at the end of the trial found the general manager guilty of 4 counts out of 6 preferred against him and sentenced him to 7 years imprisonment. On each count, the judge ruled that the prison terms will run concurrently. On our political news this morning, Akoredolu playing politics with lives of Ondo people, says PDP. The People's Democratic Party, PDP, Ondo State Chapter. The People's Democratic Party Ondo State Chapter has accused Governor Oluwarotimi Akeredolu of playing politics, accused Governor with the lives of the people of the state. According to the party, the lackadaisical attitude of the governor in securing the state led to the withdrawal of the soldiers from checkpoints across the highways in the state. Had reported that insecurity looms in the state following the withdrawal of soldiers from various checkpoints across the state. Also, PDP on Wednesday had alleged that the failure of Akeredolu to pay the soldiers the allowances was the reason for the withdrawal from the checkpoint, with accusing the party of politicizing the EU. PDP, in a statement issued by the Publicity Secretary Kennedy Perete on Thursday, emphasized with the festive season approaching, Akeredolu should be more concerned in beefing up security across the state, while lashing out at the governor over his excuse that the withdrawal of soldiers at checkpoints was due to Cold War with the Amotekun Corps. Perete stated that the excuse was laughable and unreasonable. Perete added that the soldiers of 32 Artillery Brigade, Akure, the state capital, who had also been providing security in Ekiti State, did not withdraw from the checkpoint in the state, where Amotekun also operates. In the first place, what has been the spectacular achievement of the Ondo Amotekun? Is there no Amotekun in Ekiti State, a jurisdiction covered by 32 Artillery Brigade stationed in Akure? Are soldiers not at the checkpoint in Ekiti State? Why does it think that it is the Ondo Amotekun that must be sabotaged of all the states in the southwest? Governor Rotimi Akeredolu should own up to his failure to live up to his responsibility in this regard. Of all the 6 states in the southwest, is it only in Ondo State that Amotekun is led by a man who has no military background? This is not far-fetched. Akeredolu is simply patronizing his kinsmen from Owo. Anambra Global candidate signed peace accord as Abubakar preaches peace ahead of poll. Candidates and political parties participating in Saturday's governorship election in Anambra State have signed a peace accord pledging to shun violence. At the event held at the Professor Dora Akunyili Women's Development Center, Oka, 17 candidates contesting in the election and the political parties resolved to keep the agreement of abiding by the peace treaty. This is coming as the chairman of the National Peace Committee, NPC, General Abdulsalami Abubakar, retired, called on candidates and their political parties to ensure they abide by the peace accord to ensure a free, fair, and credible election. Abubakar, a former head of state to the consistent stated that it is not just a mere exercise but a clarion call for stakeholders to commit themselves to a peaceful electoral process. He said we are all aware of the consistent history of political and electoral violence in Nigeria. Almost every box snatching, vote buying, outright disruption of the process, and in some cases, the intimidation of ordinary citizens who simply want to select a leader that will govern them. The violence has gone beyond just the period of election. Every day we hear stories of kidnapping, banditry, terrorism, and in most cases, outright criminality. This ugly trend continues to threaten the peace, security, and stability of our dear country. The question is, when will all this stop? How can we work together to ensure peace and stability both during and after the election cycle? We, the members of the National Peace Committee, have come to Anambra State to support a peaceful electoral process. We cherish Anambra State and we cherish the peace and unity of Nigeria. Most importantly, we want to contribute our own quota to see that the governorship election in Anambra State is devoid of violence. We call on candidates, their parties and supporters to be free and fair and credible election in the letter and spirit of the accord. Any aggrieved party should not resort to violence but follow a judicial process. Therefore, the signing of the peace accord today, Thursday, is not a mere exercise. It is a clarion call for all the candidates and the political parties to commit themselves to a peaceful protest, the former head of state added. Also, Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Committee, INEC, Professor Muhammad Yakub, said the Commission has concluded plans to ensure each free election while urging the parties to adhere to the peace accord and ensure that the election is conducted without any acrimony. He said the INEC is ready to organize each free election. The focus of the MPC was initially for the presidential election, but having played a major role in the free, fair, and credible elections in Edo and Ondo, we called for your support for the Anambra election on Saturday, and we are happy they responded. We are also hopeful that this election process will pass on without hiccups. We hope that the political parties will adhere to the peace accord so that we can have a peaceful election and country, the INEC boss added. On our business news this morning, abandoned oil depot, pipelines rigs constitute security threats, says the representatives. The House of Representatives ad hoc committee set up to investigate the current state and use of federal government's property and assets has asked the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation and its subsidiaries to provide a list of federal government assets under their control. The committee said oil depot, pipelines, rigs, and other facilities which could have generated revenues for the government and reduced borrowing and budget deficits has been abandoned in various parts of the country. According to the committee, these abandoned facilities now constitute environmental and security threat to their host communities. The committee said this at its investigative hearing on Abuja on Thursday when subsidiaries of the NNPC appeared before it. The chairman of the committee, Ademorin Kuye, in his opening remarks said this committee was constituted pursuant to a resolution of the National Assembly to investigate all assets in the custody of MDAs, assets that have been trespassed and encroached, assets that are just wasting away that could be converted to revenue for the federal government for the development of a country. At the last sitting, we resolved that NAPI, most National Petroleum Investment Management Services, should furnish this committee with records of supposed abandoned assets of the federal government in their care, and we received in response to the letter a letter dated 20th of September 2021, acknowledging our letter and expressing the regret of the inability of the GGM, Mr. Bala Wunti, to attend the meeting, asking for another date, 2 weeks' time. The managing director of NNPC Properties Limited, Musa Amza, who represented the group managing director of the NNPC, Mole Keri, who noted that Wunti was part of the federal government delegation on an official duty outside the country, said he was the custodian of the corporation's assets. Speaking on the probe, a member of the committee, Ibrahim Isiaka, you are aware of the assets held by the NNPC, both onshore and offshore. Of great concern in the National Assembly is that after the commissioning of most of the assets that you have with most of the international oil companies, they are all greatly abandoned, constituting environmental hazards. Responding, Amza stated that only NAPIMS could explain the assets related to joint venture businesses between the NNPC and IOCs. Iamza added on a question on abandoned assets nationwide. The NNPC has really seen that as a problem, and we have really started by trying to take stock of all the assets that exist. And on their behalf, we have taken inventory of all of them. We have documented them all. On our sport news this morning regarding the English Premier League, they are underperforming. You can't give Solskjaer another transfer window, says Arman, tells Man United board. Former Liverpool midfielder Detmar Arman has told the Manchester United board not to give Solskjaer another transfer window because his team are underperforming. Arman believes the Man United squad under Solskjaer are not making any progress so far this season. Man United have won just 3 of their last 9 matches in all competitions. The Royal Devils lost against Aston Villa, Leicester City and Liverpool. They are not making any progress if you look at the team and the performances so far. It's not good enough, Arman told Metro UK. People said Ronaldo is the problem, but where would they be without his goals? He is scoring important goals at important times for Manchester United, and without his goals, they would be out of the Champions League by now. You can't win every game, but they are not playing good football. It's a great watch, and they are massively underperforming. With the squad they have assembled and how long the manager has been there for now, you can't just say give him another transfer window. They have spent money every transfer window, and the football isn't any better from Moyes to the managers since. I think it's a matter of when and not if, and there is a lot of his ex-teammates who don't want to call him out or say it as it is. If anyone thinks is the ideal solution for Manchester United, then I think they couldn't be more wrong. On our health news this morning, NDLEA wants compulsory drug test for couples. The chairman / chief executive officer of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, Brigadier General Buba Marwa, retired, has advocated for a compulsory drug test for intending couples to control the menace of drug addiction. Marwa said this while speaking at the presentation of a book entitled Legacies of a Legend, written in honor of a former national chairman of the People's Democratic Party and erstwhile governor of Old Gongola State, Alhaji Barmaga Toko, in Abuja on Thursday. Marwa, a former military administrator of Lagos State, who noted that HIV tests and genotype tests are usually carried out by intending couples before marriage, wondered why a mandatory drug test is left out. The NDLEA boss said, "Before I leave the stage, I must take advantage of this audience. Please, how many of you will like your daughters to marry drug addicts? Raise your hands. Before the wedding, we always do HIV tests, we do genotype tests. I appeal to you, please, let's also have a drug test before wedding." Commenting about Alhaji Barmaga Mohammed Tuko, is also popularly known as BMG. Marwa describes the elder statesman as an astute demonstrator, a philanthropist, farmer, statesman, industrialist, diplomat, a man of honor and integrity, a man of substance, a man of exemplary character, and an unblemished life. On our foreign news this morning, Navy fires top 3 leaders of submarine that struck uncharted sea mountain. Loss of confidence was the reason cited. The Navy has fired the 3 top leaders who were aboard the attack submarine USS Connecticut when it struck an uncharted sea mountain in the Pacific Ocean in early October. The commander of the Navy's 7th Fleet relieved the commanding officer of the submarine, Comrade Cameron Alijani. The executive officer, Lieutenant Comrade Patrick Cashin, and the top enlisted sailor, Master Chief Sorna. Technician Corey Rogers, due to loss of confidence, according to a Navy statement. At the time of the incident, the submarine was transiting through an area of the South China Sea, according to a U.S. official. Though the vessel struck an uncharted sea mountain, Vice Admiral Carl Thomas, commander of 7th Fleet, determined the incident could have been prevented. The official said the submarine did not exercise as much caution as necessary and was traveling faster than it should have in an area that is not as well charted as others. sound judgment, prudent decision-making, and adherence to required procedures in navigation planning, which watch team execution and risk management could have prevented the incident, according to the statement. The 3 who were fired will be replaced by a new leadership team while the submarine remains in Guam before it makes its way to Bremerton, Washington for repairs to the hull and interior. On October 2, the Sea Wolf close fast attack submarine struck an unknown object while underwater, but the Navy did not publicly disclose the incident until after the vessel was close to arriving at the naval base in Guam, where a damage assessment would be made. A Navy official said at the time that 2 sailors had suffered moderate injuries and were treated aboard the vessel. Other sailors suffered burns, bruises, and lacerations. There was no damage to the submarine's nuclear reaction. Last week, a Navy investigation into the incident determined that the submarine had struck an uncharted sea mountain, and the 7th Fleet Commander will determine whether accountability actions might be appropriate. And lastly, on our entertainment news this morning, Jay-Z deletes Instagram account a day after joining app. American rapper and business mogul Jay-Z has left Instagram after joining the social media platform for a day and amassed over 1.5 million followers. The multiple award-winning superstar joined Instagram on Wednesday, November 3, 2021, followed only his wife, Beyoncé, on the platform, then shared a photo from Netflix, the fall film, which he co-produced. He also uploaded an Instagram story featuring a premiere countdown clock for the film. However, by the next day, he deleted the account. Jay-Z created the film The Fall in collaboration with producer and director James Samuel and producers Lawrence Bender G, Mark Brown, and James Lasseter. Last month, the rapper opened up about why representation in Hollywood was important to him. The film features an all-black cast including Elba King, Jonathan Majors, Leketh Stanfield, Zazie Beetz, Eddie Gatti, Riauje Sila, Delroy Lindo, Daniel Dadwala, Dean Cole, and Damon Wayans Jr. I love to be a part of the project that widens the lens, he told Entertainment Tonight. Once it's widened for us, it's widened for Asians, for Mexicans, and for everyone. And that will be that on our breakfast news. Do stay with us. We'll be right back shortly. Welcome back. Still on your news at 8, live from AYOGEN online television. Highlight of the news this morning. On our local news this morning, EFCC finally releases Obi Kubana after 3 days in detention. Regarding the Alhambra election, Nigerian Army, not political, says General Onwachukwu. Branu GM jailed 28 years for 86 million naira contract fraud. On our political news this morning, Akeredolu playing politics with lives of Ondo people, says PDP. Anambra gubernatorial election candidate signed peace accord as Abubakar preaches peace ahead of poll. On our business news this morning, abandoned oil depot, pipelines rig constituent security threat, says the House of Representatives. On our sport news this morning regarding the ongoing English Premier League, they are underperforming. You can't give Solskjaer another transfer window, Aman tells Man United board. On our health news this morning, NDLEA, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, wants compulsory drug test for intending couple. On our foreign news this morning, Navy fires top 3 leaders of submarine that struck uncharted sea mountain. On entertainment news this morning, Jay-Z deletes Instagram account a day after joining the app. And that will be that on our breakfast news this morning. Do thank you for watching. I want you to continue to subscribe on our YouTube channel to get our latest updates, our latest news on breakfast news every morning as at 8 a.m. on AYOGEN online television. Continue to subscribe to our channel and follow and like us on our page respectively on Facebook and Instagram. I remain your host, Makonjola Oluwatosin Esther. You have a very wonderful day and a nice weekend.
Christmas is here again. Hallelujah. As you all know, this season is a season when our Lord Jesus Christ was born. I will rejoice and be glad in it. That's why we, the management of AYOGEN Television, use this medium to invite the society like churches, schools, businessmen and women to take part in this our festive promo, which will start on the 1st of November 2021 to 23rd of December 2021, where you make your advert with a price that is very affordable. Christmas carol for schools and churches. Listen, I'm not done yet. There's going to be for the Christmas party for children, where the children may go together and have the opportunity to interact with Father Christmas with a very good gift. What are you still waiting for? To get all these packages, you can call Adiogo on 08061378705, Blessing 08081526742, Shegun 08108995330, or you can come directly to our office at number 157 Brigadier Ademulegun Road, opposite St. Ambrose Grammar School, Ondo City, Ondo State. Remember, as we are moving here and there in this festive season, let's take everything gently. The Lord who has been our keeper will continue to protect all. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year in advance.